divide that by 3, that's 11. Okay, so you're 11 years old.
All right, guys, I got it started again. Look, first of all, how long? Because usually we'll go like 10 minutes. How much time do we need?
Till the hour.
We need another 3 hours, but
Well, I want to hear what David's point is. What does he want to get to?
Let's agree to leave it open,
okay.
because I just
I'm
want to
with
make sure
Reuben.
if somebody else has to go somewhere.
my
someone
point
else.
was this. My point was this, that I'm into realism in religion, and the Rambam seems the sanest of them all, and probably Leibovich as well. So some of the things that are written in the Moreh Nevuchim, I find, like for instance, in this section of the Leibovich's book, Sichot al Torat HaNevuah shel Rambam, it's basically about the Rambam's theory of prophecy. There's a quote here that I really like, because I'll read it in Hebrew very fast. I think you all understand, but I will translate also. כבר עמדנו על כך שהרמב"ם רואה בכל המרכיבים של פרשת גן עדן ביטויים סמליים לכוחות השונים והמנוגדים המתרוצצים באדם. ופרק זה כאמור מעלה בפנינו את בעיית האדם, וכל סיפור העלילה המובא בפרקים ב' ג' בחומש בראשית, לא בגן עדן הוא מתרחש, אלא בתודעתו של כל אחד מאיתנו הוא מתרחש, ורק השוטים והתמימים, השכלים, סבורים כי חשיבותה של פרשה זו היא בכך שהיא יראה בזמן ובמקום מסוים. So basically what Leibovich says here is that just like this was my approach before I read this, I have to admit. I'm not a genius, it's just a coincidence that the story of Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden is basically about human nature and really about some of the deepest parts in human consciousness. And it's about many things. It's about man's, or I would say humanity's, because there's a woman there too, right? So it's about humanity's quest for knowledge. It's about the differences between
Peoplekind.
Between peoplekind. Yeah, Justin Trudeau, the greatest philosopher of our time. The differences between the sexes, the male and the female, and the nachash that is between them, and so I find that to be a much more appealing idea to me than believing that this is a story that took place in sometime in a specific place on Earth, or in some kind of Gan Eden, wherever that Gan Eden could be. And so there's many examples like that. The Rambam basically takes everything in Moreh Nevuchim and turns those religious philosophical problems. He basically, how do you say hashlacha, Reuven? הוא משליך את זה.
Separate?
No, he separates God from the world, basically, but he's making all of these religious philosophical problems not the problems of traditional thinking, but problems of man in this world. And even what we call the chet ve'onesh, sin and punishment, is something that happens in this life. For instance, the Rambam wrote a very famous letter. It's called in Igeret Tchiyat HaMetim. The Rambam was blamed that he did not believe in Tchiyat HaMetim, the resurrection of the dead in the end of days, or in the Olam Haba.
One of his 13 principles of faith.
No. He wrote an entire letter that in which it says that I totally and fully believe in Tchiyat HaMetim. And I don't think that he would write that if he really would not have believed in it. So in other words, I think that he was blamed for something that was actually true. He said that Tchiyat HaMetim is that the knowledge. This is what the Rambam said, and it's in if I'm not mistaken, it's in the Moreh Nevuchim, or could be in some other article by the Rambam. But he says that basically the Tchiyat HaMetim for him is the knowledge that humanity accumulates in this world, and basically gives it to the next generations. And this is how basically the Tchiyat HaMetim is not a real thing. It's not going to be a resurrection. The Rambam
He didn't believe in Olam Haba.
In these things. What?
He did not believe in Olam Haba and resurrection.
No, he didn't. He didn't.
So he's a rationalist,
A complete rationalist. And now again, I just started to say that the Moreh Nevuchim, the Guide for the Perplexed, was written for, was addressed to, like he said, not just to every, man to the common man on the street, to the common man in the shuk, the common man on the market, but it's for people who can understand that the things that we believe are about our consciousness. It's about human consciousness and the way human consciousness interprets reality, and also in order to really know the Torah, you have to learn sciences. The Rambam accepted all the 25 principles of Aristotle of the way the world works. But he added the 26th.
Except the origin.
He added the 26th. He added the 26th principle, and that basically makes the difference between the Rambam and Aristotle, and that is the world was created, and that the world is not ancient or kadmon, which basically means eternal. There's no such thing as eternity. Only God is eternal, but the world is mechudash. The world is created, and except for that, he accepted all the principles of Aristotle for the explanation of how the world works.
David, but just a second, I have a question here, just to make sure. You mentioned that Rambam doesn't believe in resurrection of the dead.
Mm-hmm.
I'm reading here in English from the 13th principle. Principle number 13, Rambam says, I believe with complete faith that there will be a revivification of the dead whenever desire emanates from the Creator, blessed be His name, and exalted in His mention forever and for eternity.
Right.
Did he not write that?
Do you believe when Putin says that he doesn't want to invade Poland?
No, I'm just saying number 13 principle of faith said that the Rambam said he believes in complete faith there will be resurrection of the dead. Did he say that? This is right here. Look in the book.
Yeah, I know. I have it in my siddur. Okay, so what's the problem?
Rambam said he believes
No, he doesn't say. He wrote it. He doesn't say it.
Well, is that not Rambam's word?
That's Rambam's word on paper. Yes.
Of it saying that Rambam is simply stating the 13 principles, and he's purifying, extracting them. He didn't claim that he believed them. That's what he's saying.
So Rambam doesn't believe in the 13 principle of faith that he created.
He did not believe in the resurrection of the dead. Period.
It says in number 13. I'm just asking.
It doesn't matter what it says. He didn't believe it.
How do you know? It says here, he says, did Rambam write it 13?
Well, read the right books and you will know.
No, I'm just reading the book. Number 13 says, I believe in resurrection of the dead.
If Rambam has two books that seemingly contradict each other, how do we know what he actually believed?
Another example, he said that he thinks these sacrifices, the temple sacrifices, were just given by God because everybody else has them. And so the Jews would feel left out if they didn't have something. So he made sure it's just confined in a certain place, certain time, certain way. You can't just go around making sacrifices.
Reuben, that is true.
But in Mishnah Torah, he gives very specific, and he says how important they are, and he makes a big deal.
This is true.
You want to believe this one? You want to believe that one?
No, we know, you're absolutely right. We know what Ram's position is on sacrifices. My point is number 13 principle. I just want to be specific. In this book, it says that he believes in the resurrection of the dead. That's what he wrote.
Yeah. He wrote that he believed in the. He didn't just write the 13 principles. He wrote an entire article about the resurrection of the dead and that he believed it.
I'm pointing.
You have to define what he means by resurrection of the dead.
No, it says right here.
Define your terms. That's what I learned at university.
Listen, we can talk about Aristotle and Plato, but I'm not interested in Aristotle and Plato. I'm saying this is 13 principles says right here in my book.
Yeah. Yes.
Do you have another book that says he doesn't? Show me what he says doesn't. Show me.
Well, I'll have to find it. I'll have to find it here. Okay? I'll have to find it here. But the pticha of the Moreh Nevuchim, the pticha, just the opening of the Moreh Nevuchim is already tells you.
Tell me what he says, that he doesn't believe the resurrection of the dead.
Okay. מטרתו הראשונה של ספר זה להסביר משמעויותיהם של שמות המופיעים בספרי הנבואה, חלק מן השמות האלה שמות משותפים, והשכלים פרשום כאחד מן המשמעויות שלהם נאמר שם משותף זה.
I have to apologize for my Hebrew, David. Do it in English. So, yeah.
Okay. The Rambam says right in the first verse of the book that the stupid people interpreted the books of the prophecy. Now, when he says the books of the prophecy, he means the Bible. The entire Bible.
How does he define stupid people? Does he define that anywhere?
I'm just giving you the translation of the text.
Menachem, it's a good question you asked before, but I just want David to finish. Where does it say he does not believe in the resurrection of the dead? You just said he believes that they're stupid people. I got it. Where does he say he doesn't believe in the resurrection of the dead?
Lev, you don't let me finish.
Finish?
Let him finish. Lev, let him finish.
Okay.
This is why I love Lev. He's
enthusiastic.
I'm gonna wait and wait till David shows me the quote that he doesn't believe in the resurrection of the dead. I have mine. He does.
He's not gonna find it now. I just want to hear what David has to say.
Okay.
Okay. So the first verse of the Moreh Nevuchim says this. This book is about terms in the books of the prophecy. The books of the prophecy is the entire Bible from Bereshit to Divrei Hayamim, from Genesis to the Chronicles, everything about terms that the stupid people have interpreted basically interpreted them by their pshat. That's the way they are. So that
the finger of God.
So everything
people believe it was really a finger.
What?
Like when it says Etzba Elokim, they think it's really a finger. That's
a finger, yeah. That's right.
When
God sits on the chair, it's a real chair and it's a real sitting and all of that. And God speaking to, for instance, for the Rambam, God speaking to Moses is not God speaking to Moses. It's Moses elevating himself to such a level that he understands a godly truth. That's a completely different interpretation of everything you will ever find about the Torah.
Okay, I've got to go in 2 minutes, but I want to just say something on this point, is that Rambam does say in the beginning of his Mishnah Torah that why the Torah speaks in that specific terminology, why it uses words like that. And he basically answers, like in 2 or 3 sentences, that the Torah speaks in the Lashon Midei Adam. He speaks in the language of man, in that man is very unique in that we have these limbs and with these experiences. Angels don't have these experiences. They can't grasp these concepts. The uniqueness is that through these concepts of an arm, a leg, a thought, a speech, we can understand, at least on an abstract level, or even through our personal experience, what these concepts are. We can therefore grasp them to a certain degree. Angels can't do that, therefore they can't. So that's the reason why the Torah speaks in that way, so we can, through our unique experience, we can grasp these concepts and relate to them. Okay, I need to go now. I have a meeting.
Let me just say one thing. Rabbi Beryl Wine
That's
Rabbi
Let's
Beryl
also,
Wine said,
guys, let's also come to a conclusion to make sure, because I personally can stay for another 10 hours, but let's say in fairness, so we
let me
all
tell you
together.
one thing. Rabbi Beryl Wine said
Menachem, wait,
about,
wait, it's just 2
about
minutes
Rambam.
for us to close.
Okay, 2 minutes. I haven't talked the whole time. Come on. He said regarding Rambam, if it wasn't for Mishnah Torah, Mora Nevuchim wouldn't be a problem. And if it wasn't for Mora Nevuchim, Mishnah Torah wouldn't be a problem. Which means that these two books are very different. And for somebody who accepts the Mishnah Torah, they have trouble wrapping their head around why would write Mora Nevuchim, which seems to be, people consider Apocryphus. And for somebody who knows he wrote the Apocryphus, then why should we trust the Mishnah Torah? It's an interesting problem because the two books are so different.
It's a,
yeah.
But I
Menachem,
don't
wait,
think we're going to solve the
Menachem,
problem.
wait 30 seconds. Adrian, you didn't say anything today. 30 seconds, you close it, and let's do, guys, for next Tuesday, we'll pick up from here. But because it's not fair that Adrian didn't say. Adrian, any comments?
No, I'm happy. First of all, I want to reassure David that my tuchus is intact. He was under the impression that I was laughing it off, and it's completely intact. Second, I'm extremely pleased to have made all of your acquaintances, even though I may not agree with much of what you're saying. Number three, I think if you're going to give a shiur, David, you better be better prepared, because I will be blunt. It was rambling and incoherent, and I prefer something a little more precise. And you're capable of it, but you let yourself go. You got drunk with your own words. So as far as I'm concerned, whether the Zohar was written 50 years or published, say 50 years after Maimonides died, is really not important, because the Zohar didn't come instantaneously. There were discussions and thoughts and so on going on about it way before. So, the thoughts that are embodied in it may well have been unacceptable to Rambam, even if he didn't have the specific book. So I don't think that's important. For me, of all the great sages of our people, Rambam has a special interest for me as well, because he was influenced, obviously, by Greek philosophy. He was influenced by mathematics. He was influenced by medicine. He was a physician.
And by Muslim philosophy.
Was also subject to the terrible pressures, and there people have even suggested that whether he pretended or whether he really did temporarily, that he converted to Islam, if only to escape being murdered, or maybe as a temporary measure. So there's so many aspects of Rambam's output in his life that I particularly find fascinating. Mm-hmm. So, and it's always hard to know what he really, really believed and so on, because we can't talk to him and so on. So therefore, I'm fascinated. I just wish we had been a little more organized and succinct, because we spent a lot of time arguing the same point over and over again. He did have it, he didn't have it, he did say that. And that's not very productive of our time, because this is precious time we have together. So I'm very happy to be part of the group.
That's Lev to blame, because Lev cannot let a question go.
No.
Yes, I have prepared things, as you can see.
Habibi, whatever you prepared didn't happen, and it's not totally Lev's fault.
Yes, it's only Lev's fault, because he attacked me endlessly.
Yeah,
endlessly. But didn't let me say anything I wanted to say.
No,
Habibi,
I was here.
David, you gotta listen to the doctor. You gotta listen to the doctor.
You're not letting me speak.
Give a shiur. I was not planning to give a shiur
the whole time.
I am not in the level of giving a shiur. I just wanted to say why I love the Rambam.
David,
but Lev didn't let me do that. Lev didn't let me do that, and his lack of knowledge. His lack of knowledge,
and he doesn't let go.
His lack of historical knowledge and his inclination to believe legend over reality, well, that drives me crazy. I'm sorry, that's the way I am.
I don't think it was a very long trip. which he drove you on.
Gentlemen, very good, excellent. Listen, we have to stop because otherwise we're going for another time. But it's very wonderful, David. Thank you very much for presenting very interesting material. I really enjoyed it. I'm sure everybody else did. And let's continue next. That's how we learn. We learn about history, we learn about religion, different views. That's a whole thing about minyan. We add to each other. As I joined both Adrian, David, Reuven, and Menachem Mendel on there. That's how we make it. We add little portions of our thoughts, and together we grow and learn from each other. It's wonderful. Guys,
I
don't think you like doing that.
Something important. You know, when you talk, you don't learn anything new. You learn new things when you listen to other people.
That's true. Well, we have to. This is our group dynamic, because the subject is complicated, Rambam. So David had to extend it for a certain time. It's not a 5 minute discussion. But then again, you're right. We don't have 40 minutes for that. 5 is not enough. So somehow we learn to manage the time together. I always have. Listen, I wrote books also, like you guys do. I also did it, and I teach lectures on poems. And the biggest challenge for me personally always had to manage my time. I tend to be verbose, and Adrian crucified me many times. I recorded something on our sessions. I recorded, and Adrian told me bluntly, said, "Lev, you mumbled, you do this," and he was right. That is the challenge I have. And for somebody, a good friend, again, to tell me that, I value that. I value that because he says to me something. I listen to what he says. And because he says this, I wanted to, how can you become less verbose and make my point more succinctly? That's very good. Plus, and better to have a friend like this.
I just want to say one thing to Adrian. I gave a lecture one time in my life to people. I was lecturing to people. It was not about religion. Was about Israeli cinema, and it was quite good. It was quite a good experience. But after that, I decided that I am not going to do it ever again. People tell me sometimes when I sit, just one-on-one, they ask me, why don't you teach stuff? Why don't you teach people something? I say, I'm a bad teacher. I cannot teach. I can talk to you one-on-one. I am absolutely not I cannot teach anything, because once you start being Lev-like, I'm going bananas. I cannot teach. And I didn't want to make a shiur. For me, this is not a shiur, just a presentation of why I love the Rambam. And so for me, I actually didn't think I'm going to teach you something you don't already know. Because the Rambam's history and biography is there for everyone to read. And I'm sure that intellectual people like you guys probably have read something about the Rambam, something. So I was not preparing a shiur, definitely, and definitely not a lecture. And I'm not in the level of giving a lecture. So,
but it was very informative and interesting anyway, did it? It was very.
I don't think so. I don't think so.
Okay, I liked it, gentlemen. Let's continue picking up from here next Tuesday. Okay. In the meantime, Shavuot Tov, Kol Tov. Don't feel good. Have a good time with the family. Baruch Hashem.